There was a time when I was always looking ahead to the weekend, looking ahead to the next holiday, looking ahead to some future version of life where everything would finally feel calm, meaningful, and enough. And I don't think I'm alone in that. So many of us spend our lives enduring our days whilst dreaming about escaping them. We escape into social media. We escape into television. We escape into online shopping baskets filled with things that we don't really need. We escape into fantasies about completely different lives. And yet somehow, when those moments arrive, the feeling never lasts. Because the problem was never that I needed a different life. The problem was that I needed a different relationship with the life I already had. Today, I want to share how I slowly created a life that feels so rich, peaceful, and fulfilling that I no longer spend my days wishing I was somewhere else. Not because my life is perfect, it's not. Not because every day is magical, it's not. But because I've learned how to build a life that feels like home. Hey, hi, hello. I'm Melanie Steele, and this channel is for women who are writing their next chapter, whether that's a book, a dream, or a whole new life. If that sounds like you, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button. One of the biggest changes I made was letting go of the idea that life would begin later. You know the feeling, I'll be happy when I have more money, when I have more time, when the kids are older, when I lose weight, when I finish this project, when I retire. The problem with living this way is that happiness is always just out of reach. We are constantly postponing our own lives. At some point, I realised that I was treating the present moment as a sort of waiting room. And waiting rooms are not designed to be enjoyed. They're designed to be endured. But what if this isn't the waiting room? What if this is the life? What if today deserves our attention just as much as some imagined future? That shift changed everything. I started asking, how can I make today feel beautiful? How can I make this ordinary Tuesday more meaningful? How can I create joy now instead of waiting for permission? And surprisingly, the answers were often very small. A candle on my desk, a walk out in the sunshine, fresh flowers from the supermarket, reading before bed instead of scrolling. Tiny choices. But tiny choices repeated often become a way of life. We often think memorable lives are built from extraordinary moments. But most of life isn't extraordinary. Most of life is making dinner, folding laundry, watering plants, running errands, answering emails, making cups of tea. The question became, could I learn to enjoy ordinary life instead of treating it as an obstacle course standing between me and happiness? This is when I began embracing slower rhythms. I stopped rushing every task. I started noticing things. The smell of coffee, the sound of rain, the comfort of a favourite blanket, the changing seasons, the beauty of familiar routines. What surprised me was that contentment wasn't hiding in some future destination. It was already here, buried underneath distraction and hurry. The more present I became, the richer my life felt. Not because anything dramatic changed. It was because I finally noticed what was already there. At this point, you might be thinking, well, this sounds lovely, but where do I start? The good news is that creating a life you don't need to escape from doesn't require a dramatic reinvention. You don't need to move to the countryside. You don't need to quit your job. You don't need to become a completely different person. In my experience, the biggest changes came from the smallest actions. So here are 5 things that you can start doing this week. Create one daily anchor. Choose one simple ritual that happens every day. Maybe it's your morning cup of tea. Maybe it's 10 minutes of reading before bed. Maybe it's stepping outside for fresh air after lunch. The goal is not productivity. The goal is creating one moment each day that reminds you you are living your life. You're not rushing through it. Replace one escape habit. We all have habits that we use to check out from our lives. Endless scrolling, mindless television, constant busyness. Choose one of those habits and replace just 10 minutes of it with something more nourishing, like reading or journaling or drawing, maybe even taking a walk or listening to music. You don't have to eliminate the escape habit completely. Just create an alternative. Add beauty to an everyday task. One of the quickest ways to change how life feels is to change how ordinary tasks feel. Light a candle whilst you're folding your laundry, or listen to an audiobook whilst you're cleaning. Use your favourite mug. Buy flowers for the kitchen table. The task stays the same, but the experience changes. Schedule time for creativity. Not because you're trying to become an artist, not because you're trying to be productive, simply because creativity reconnects you with yourself. Give yourself permission to create badly. Write a page, colour a picture, bake something, arrange flowers, try an oracle card spread, anything that allows you to make rather than consume. Ask yourself one question at the end of each day, and that is, what made today feel good? Not what did I achieve or what did I accomplish? What actually made you feel alive? You'll start noticing patterns, and those patterns become clues for building a life that feels more like home. Now, none of these steps are revolutionary. That's the point. A beautiful life is rarely built through dramatic transformations. It's usually built through small choices repeated often enough that they become part of who we are. One of the tools that helped me make this shift was creativity. Not creativity for productivity, not creativity to build a business, not creativity to become an expert. Creativity simply as a way to reconnect with myself. And that's actually one of the reasons that I wrote my book, Cosy Creativity, because I discovered that creativity can become a doorway back to yourself. When we spend so much time caring for other people, managing responsibilities, and rushing through life, it is so easy to lose touch with who we are. Creative practices help us slow down enough to hear our own thoughts again. So if you've been feeling disconnected from yourself, uninspired, or like life has become a long list of obligations, Cosy Creativity offers gentle ways to bring more imagination, joy, and intention back into your days. I will leave a link below if you would like to explore that in more detail. Now, let's talk about the final piece that changed everything for me. Perhaps the most important thing that I learned is that a meaningful life isn't built around goals. It's built around values. Goals matter, of course, but goals end. Values become a way of living. And for me, some of those values are creativity, simplicity, wonder, learning, connection. When I started making decisions based on those values, everything became clearer. And instead of asking, what should I be doing? I started asking, what feels aligned with the life that I want to create? That one question changed how I spend my time, what I consume, what I create, what I say yes to, and perhaps more importantly, what I say no to. Because creating a life that you don't need to escape from isn't only about adding beautiful things, it's also about removing things that constantly pull you away from yourself, the commitments that drain you, the habits that leave you feeling worse, the expectations that were never yours to carry. A meaningful life is often less about addition and more about subtraction. And every time that you remove something that isn't serving you, you create space for something that does. If there's one thing that I hope you take away from this video, it's this. You don't have to wait for a completely different life. You can start creating a life that you love right where you are, through small choices, small rituals, small moments of beauty. A slower morning, a creative practice, a walk outside, a good book, a cup of tea, enjoyed without rushing. And none of these things will change your life overnight, but over time, they change something even more important. They change the way you experience life. And when you change the way you experience your days, you change your life. So I would love to know what's one small thing you could do this week to make your ordinary life feel a little more meaningful. Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.